Hello everybody, welcome into the 4th edition of OGP. I'm Michael, and today, for the first time, not actually joined by Jordan, I'm joined by Tom, who's going to be filling in for this edition, and I guess any future editions where Jordan can't be here. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike.
Well, Tom, today we're going to be doing it's going to be the same thing that we always do. We're going to start off by talking about what games we've been playing, and then we have a topic to discuss in a little bit more detail. We'll be talking about the Switch 2, which is getting to be a really big news item here recently. But regardless, let's start by talking about what we've played. I'm going to lead. We recently took a day trip. Me, you, Bailey, checked out some arcades, among other things, and had a pretty good time. We went to Galloping Ghost, which is I think the largest arcade in the whole world. Played a lot there. I think the big standouts for me were versus Super Mario Brothers, where I took the high score for the day, and arm wrestling. Now, arm wrestling, for those of you who don't know, is a spin-off of the Punch-Out series, and there were like a group of kids there that were going absolutely apeshit on this arm wrestling machine, just destroying it. It was literally destroying it.
Yeah.
The part that keeps the joystick down was shattered, and now you could lift it out of the machine. That's a pretty rare machine too. Was in beautiful condition when we got there, and by the time we left, a piece of history was destroyed. After Galloping Ghost, we went to Round 1, which is a lot more modern. Yeah. Arcade games.
A lot more ticket-based, like your skee ball and whatnot.
Right. Claw games, too. Crane games. The thing that really stuck out to me there was Mario Kart GP Deluxe. Got the 4 of us all playing it, and it was a lot of fun.
I do believe I won the first match.
Yeah, I think you won at least one of them. I might have won the second one. That sounds right. And we would have kept on playing, but there was a small child, and I'm like, oh, we should probably let the intended audience have a shot at it. And then finally, this was actually your idea. We went to the Yeetee station. Now, I didn't even know this place existed. Quick background. My brother Tom here, he's got a bit of an obsession with the Yeetee. Tom, what is the Yeetee?
The Yeetee is like a shirt company that goes ahead and makes designs for shirts and prints them. And
well, they're like game-based.
Yeah, they're game-based and anime-based. They have anime shirts too. But it's game t-shirts.
Geek trademark merchandising that is all officially licensed. Anyway, they have an arcade, I guess, that they operate not too far away from Round 1. So we decided to head over there. It was really nice. It was, out of the 3, it felt like the best maintained one.
Yeah.
But there also was no one in there.
Which was really nice.
It was also nice too, yeah.
Having a private arcade is
Yeah. All the machines looked beautiful. We played a couple weird fighting games. We played some games. The big standouts for me there were the Rhythm Heaven arcade machine, which was super cool. It had a very unique control layout. It was like a Game Boy Advance controller deconstructed and made huge.
Yeah.
And then I played Donkey Kong 3, personal favorite of mine. Set the house record for that game of all time, and they handed me a day pass, and then they said, actually, I don't know if we're supposed to give you a day pass anymore for doing that, so yeah. Maybe don't use it, which was fine by me, but a pretty fun trip overall.
They also had Crazy Taxi.
They did have Crazy Taxi.
Galloping Ghost had that one.
No, I don't think they did. At one point they did. They used to have the sit-down one. This was the slightly more awkward, you stand up in it machine, but yeah, it's cool to see that too. All right, Tom, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Oracle of Ages and then the Pokemon TCG Live.
Oracle of Ages, that is the recent re-release on Switch Online, right?
Yeah, that's where I was playing it. So over this break, when we weren't going to arcades and while we were traveling, I was playing Oracle of Ages. And I have to say, the Goron dancing, I don't got rhythm. I just don't have rhythm for
So Tom pulled a Jordan and just cheated.
Yes.
Using Rewind.
Rewind was so nice. I had to rewind several times to get the rhythm right.
It's hard to blame you because that was a huge stopping block when we first played that game as kids.
Yeah. And then I realized I didn't have to do as many times as I did it. Like, I did it like 4 times, and I didn't have to do it that many times.
And then, what was the other one? Pokemon TCG Online?
Yep. Or it's TCG Live now.
Oh, okay. How does that compare to the old version?
It's fine. It's got more currencies, which I don't know. I find it
more monetizing,
yeah.
monetization bullshit.
But yeah, I was undefeated until today, where I've lost 2 games now.
I think you got that on your phone, right?
Yep.
Is it the first time it's been on mobile?
I think so. TCG Online I couldn't get on mobile with the phones I've had previously, but I think you might have been able to get it on some phones, but I wasn't able to, so, you know. For me, the most important person in the world, you know.
Okay.
I wasn't able to play it.
Let's move on to a game that we both played, because I have extended thoughts that I want to share about this game, and that's Pikmin 4. It's definitely the biggest release from Nintendo of recent.
Yeah.
After Tears of the Kingdom hype had died down, this was their big thing. And we've played it, we beat it, and now we're going to have a discussion about it. I guess it's no holds barred, spoilers incoming. So, for start, as far as the story goes, it didn't end up being like as interesting as I had hoped for, but it's still probably the most intriguing story that we've ever gotten from a Pikmin game. And it leaves a lot open to interpretation, like especially in terms of the Dandori guys.
Yeah.
So I guess to explain that real quick, in this game, the off-world creatures, the people, right?
Yeah.
They get sucked up into the Pikmin onion, and then they get turned into like leafified, Pikminized versions of people, and they have an obsession with this Dandori concept, which is like, I guess the Japanese word for being efficient, or something along those lines. And they never really get into it that much, like what exactly is going on. You can, I guess, assume that maybe whatever instinct drives the Pikmin is kind of like driving them now, or whatever, but I don't know. There's not a ton there. What did you think of the story, Tom?
I thought the story was dogs.
Yeah, there were dogs. There were dogs,
and they were helping dogs, and I like dogs.
Yeah, the dogs are fun. I mean, you got to give this game. You got to give it to the game on the dogs.
Oatchi is the best dog. Though.
Oatchi, Moss, yeah.
And then the other dog that we don't like. We don't like that dog, but we like Oatchi.
I mean, they kind of like, again, it's kind of open to interpretation as to what like the deal with Moss is. We find out that she was born on the planet.
Yeah.
And maybe also these are all related to real dogs of the past, potentially, and then they went to space at one point. It's not totally clear, but that's sort of the fun of it, too.
Yeah. It seems like human beings are, like, still active on that planet. Like, from the,
everything's so well preserved.
Yeah, well preserved, and I'm thinking about the house level with, like, the burner on and the freezer is still working and everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It both feels like a previous Pikmin game where, like, humanity has not been here for literally hundreds of years, but also that, you know, they're still totally active. The final boss is, the true final boss is like a giant dog with a collar on it, which sort of implies something, but it's odd, and it's the first one that really gets ambiguous with whether or not Pikmin and humans coexist, I guess.
Of course, it just also goes to show this one over all the other Pikmin, which go ahead and, like, Pikmin 1 follows Pikmin 1, Pikmin 2, Pikmin 3 all come in order. Well, this one is, like, Pikmin 1 again, but it's different. You know, it's in the timeline, anyways.
Pikmin 1 happened, but the circumstances were just slightly different, and that caused a Zelda-style split timeline to occur. Which I'm fine with. I know that some people are a little bit, like, annoyed.
Why would you call it Pikmin 4?
Yeah, that sort of thing. I still haven't played Hey Pikmin. Maybe that'll give us some insight when I eventually play Hey Pikmin, but
I don't think you're gonna play Hey Pikmin in this stage.
I'm determined to, because I have 100% of the other ones.
Oh, is this gonna be before the next podcast? I'll play Hey Pikmin.
Yep, that's what I'll do. We'll talk about it on the next one. Moving on to like the gameplay stuff. So this is kind of how I felt. It's both the most and least control we've had for a Pikmin game. So you get these streamlined controls, right, where you can like lock onto things, and that makes it so that you can be super efficient, which is kind of the name of the game. But also they can get confused sometimes. I remember playing like one of the final like White Leaf challenges or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's like the very last stuff of the post game, and it kept on getting confused as to what I wanted to lock onto. Maybe technically, like if you measured everything out, I was closer to this one thing. Spatially, though, it looked like I was closer to this other thing, and I was facing that thing. And yet I would target this thing that's over to like my left instead of directly in front of me. And that was the most annoying version of that happening, but that happened throughout the game, and that was a little bit frustrating.
I kind of just let the auto target. I didn't ever push the button to lock on.
Okay.
So I just relied more or less on the like auto targeting kind of thing where it kind of goes over but doesn't lock on to it.
Which I think introduces its own kind of issues and removes that level of granularity that you used to have with Pikmin control. But again, you can do so much more with the Pikmin now with these new controls.
I also found that in this game you could pretty much just rely on Oatchi for like a lot of things. Like combat, you just go ahead and you charge up your rush and you go into the guy and bam, it's dead.
Yeah, he especially early on, he kind of like the gameplay is kind of centralized around him. As it becomes a bit more demanding, and especially if you want to go for like platinum medals on things, you do have to separate Oatchi from the Pikmin, and that's when the game is at its best for me.
Yeah.
As those really hard challenges. Okay, I'm going to send Oatchi over here. He's going to collect this while I'm doing that. I'm fighting this guy, and these guys are off here.
The last White Leaf demands it. You absolutely have to, and you absolutely have to upgrade Oatchi for it.
Right. I think that, so a staple of the Pikmin series, right, is this day system. You know, what can you get done in a day?
Yeah.
That's still a lot of fun in this game for the most part, but it doesn't 100% gel with the new night missions. Yeah. Because whenever you do a night mission, you can only do that one thing.
Yeah. You can do one thing a day.
You can do one thing a day, and you just wasted a day. And I like the night missions well enough, especially towards the end again. They get pretty challenging and fun. Yeah. But it does kind of go counter to that. I wish that you had like a whole night and you can do as many of these as you can get done in a night or something. Yeah, that just didn't really play out. So the day system is a bit weird.
How do you feel about the rewind feature?
Okay, so I'm going to be real. I did end up using it. I wanted to avoid using it, but I got to one particular part in, I think, the final dungeon. There's like the final dungeon is kind of like a boss rush-ish thing. Yeah. There's an Empress Bulblax, which extincted my Pikmin, because I didn't know how I was supposed to approach the fight. I thought I was going to be able to go down and, like I did the first time you encounter this creature, just knock it out almost instantly. I was wrong. It had more health, I think, and it rolled them all, and I extincted my Pikmin. And
I think rock Pikmin don't get crushed, do they?
I don't think so. I didn't have any on me. I think I was mostly purples and that kind of thing. I get all my Pikmin extincted, so I did use the rewind there. And at first I felt kind of bad about it, but I'm like, this isn't really that different from what I did with Pikmin 2, where I just physically reset the GameCube every time there was a Pikmin, ending event. So that's the only time I used it, though, and I think that had more to do, honestly, with just the that particular room is really set up to kill all your guys if you do not know how you need to approach it.
Yeah.
I really like the Dandori challenges. Overall, they're really short, condensed Pikmin experiences, especially when you want to go for the platinum medals. They can be pretty challenging. I guess the wrinkle in that is the Dandori versus battles. Yeah. Those do not feel.
They're so much luck based.
Yeah.
It feels like you go ahead and you get the bomb, blow up your opponent. Go ahead and have Oatchi get the heavy stuff, and then use your other Pikmin to get whatever little things and maybe mess with your opponent a bit. And it just really depends upon the items you get. Adds another thing to it.
And what the AI decides to do. Like sometimes it'll just ignore your guy as they deliver the bomb. Sometimes Oatchi gets killed or whatever. So, I don't know. I didn't love that as much. There are strategies. Like, you can just follow the enemy around and just take whatever they're trying to get.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of works, but it doesn't feel as deep when you...
when you're just cheating, basically.
Yeah, that is what it feels like. Talk about the difficulty just briefly. It definitely skews pretty easy for the first portion of the game.
Yeah. I would say, however, that is reversed when you get to the white leaf challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the first few, like, oh my gosh, how am I doing this? Like, and even sometimes it doesn't, like, super explain things, like the bull blacks. You don't have to bring those back to your base.
Yeah. That's what I thought at first, too. It's like, I'm like, it wants me to carry all these back. I don't know how I can do that in time, let alone do that in, like, the minute and a half for the platinum thing. Yeah, but those got easier. The really hard one for me was the ice one.
Yeah.
That one took me so long, and I still think there must have been something I was actually missing, because the amount of time you got is so small. Yeah, it gets really hard, and then it kind of gets easier. The last challenge, again, is like fairly challenging, but once you figure out, you just kind of use Oatchi.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot easier. This game has got like a lot of Pikmin 2 inspiration in it. The difficulty is probably the one thing that it doesn't just like lift from Pikmin 2.
No.
Because Pikmin 2 is super difficult basically all the way through. Yeah, like some of these dungeons are just recycled, I think, from Pikmin 2 straight up. It's nice to see the return of some enemies from that game, but it does feel like it maybe relies just a bit too heavily on Pikmin 2. I think it would have been really cool if there's some sort of mode that's just infinitely replayable.
Yeah, like
in my
infinite dungeon.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, just an infinite dungeon.
Where you have to collect all the treasures per layer to go to the next layer.
Yeah.
And you don't know
where they're going to spawn.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe, as crazy as it sounds, like, I feel like maybe we could get that in DLC even. That seems like a DLC mode they would add. Yeah. But I was just going to say, like, an infinite night mode even. Like a tower defense style thing. That's very easy to make that like an infinite mode.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing like that. So after you have done literally everything, like I have, not much reason to boot up the game anymore, unfortunately. I thought that the Olimar side story that gets introduced, I think after the first ending.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most surprising and genuinely cool things Nintendo's put in a game. I was shocked. It's basically a remake of Pikmin 1.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects. It uses the new maps, but the concept's the same. It feels like it has its own sort of progression and it's fully, thought out.
Yeah.
I thought that was wonderful. And that unlocks then, the really hard stuff, the leaf challenges or whatever. The 3 Pikmin at once thing, I thought that was going to annoy me more than it did. Like, in the previous games, you could take out all the types and have all the types at your disposal, but this allowed them to kind of make the gameplay a bit more tightly focused on the individual abilities of the Pikmin. A lot of the time, I wasn't wanting for a kind that I didn't have, so that didn't bug me.
Although, what I've used of the glow Pikmin are a bit overpowered, because they don't get electrocuted. I don't think they can get caught on fire.
I think they're immune to almost all status effects, which ended up being really good, because I got to the final boss, and I didn't have any yellows at that point, I think. Yeah. So I thought that I was just screwed, but then I'm like, I've been saving up glow Pikmin. Yeah. Then the game became, trivial. Really, that makes that final boss so much easier.
Purple Pikmin are still overpowered, though. Like,
super overpowered, yeah.
Final boss, pretty easy with purple Pikmin.
I think their solution, though, was pretty good in that, okay, here's a way to finally grow purple Pikmin. They gave you a purple onion in this one. But it's at the very end, so I ended up waiting to get that last treasure until after I did, the most of the post-game, which I thought was a way of making the collection of purples less annoying, because that sucked in Pikmin 2, but also making it so they're sort of limited for most of the game.
So, have you heard about this glitch in Pikmin 4 where you can get more than 100 Pikmin?
I saw something about that. I've been meaning to try it. I know that it tanks the frame rate, like, unsurprisingly. We can talk a little bit about the technical aspects of that, but yeah. Yeah,
about how Pikmin 4 might not look like the best game at some portions of it, especially when you're looking at things from a distance.
Oh yeah, let's talk about those visuals. So the free camera, right?
Yeah.
This feels great. I'm really glad that Pikmin finally has a free camera. It actually makes, like, the scale of things. You know, like, you can really get a sense of the scale. But it like, kind of exposes some of the technical limitations. A big one for me is, you know, you can sort of put it close to the ground, and if there's a bigger enemy off in the distance, it'll get a 0 FPS animation. So it'll just be frozen there, and it looks really awkward. You know, other games have used dynamic frame rates for distant animations, but this one is just rough. And I think especially because it's got such a realistic art style, when there's that stuff that clashes with it, it looks especially bad. Also, some other stuff I've noticed, which, as we're recording this, Digital Foundry actually put out their tech analysis of Pikmin 4, and they didn't mention any of this stuff, so I don't know if it's actually an early model Switch situation or what. Did you played it on your OLED, right? Yeah. Did you notice any of this stuff too?
Not as much, no.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like an early model Switch thing, which is becoming more and more prevalent. But anyway, yeah, lighting effects would just take forever to load in when you're like switching levels in a cave. Like the lighting would change all in a choppy manner, and then every once in a while you get like a low resolution of a texture when you're looking at the ground, and then it would pop into the full high-res version of that texture, and it did not look great. I think this is an old Switch problem, which is unfortunate that we're starting to see that more and more. Yeah, but like overall though, like as far as aesthetics go, it is a beautiful game. It looks really nice. It's just some of those hardware problems. Anything else you have to say about Pikmin 4, Tom?
I don't think so.
Pretty good game. I think right now it's probably my favorite of the year, beating out Tears of the Kingdom just a little bit. All right. Well, with all that being said, we did talk a lot about Pikmin 4. It's time to talk about the Switch 2, Tom.
It's a happening.
It's happening. I remember like a couple weeks ago, you showed me that fake Switch design with like the...
Oh, yeah.
The Joy-Cons are in, like, Joy-Con
holders. They're in, like, Joy-Cons. They're, like, Joy-Cons inside of Joy-Cons, almost.
And it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst fakes I've ever seen. But this kind of was, like, the beginning of the floodgates of Switch 2 stuff opening up. Now, the first credible rumors about the Switch 2 kind of go back a ways. I don't know if you remember this, Tom. You probably do. You're a big Pokemon fan.
Yeah, I remember stuff sometimes.
The DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet got leaked. They revealed what the legendaries were like, and in that leak they said that they were a developer creating a patch for Switch 2. And that was like our first credible example of like a Switch 2 leak. And then now recently, like this past week, Video Game Chronicle put out a report detailing a little bit more about the Switch 2, and here's what they had to say. Their sources being, I guess, developers who now have dev kits. For starters, releasing in the second half of 2024, which does seem pretty reasonable.
That seems reasonable.
It'll have an LCD screen, not an OLED screen, which is interesting.
They're planning on selling the OLED later on.
Yeah. And then
like a
light version.
A light version,
a XL version. And then it's going to be cart-based. And the developers do not agree on whether or not it's backwards compatible, which is fascinating. But I guess just to break that down, the second half of 2024, that seems reasonable enough. You do have to wonder when they're going to, announce the thing. There's other rumors about that we can talk about a bit later. The LCD screen, this is a little bit disappointing to me because I've had the LCD Switch, since launch. And whenever I see you playing on the OLED, it looks so much nicer. Like, the screen on the OLED is so good. I'm pretty jealous, honestly.
I know. I'm sure you're also jealous because of it being a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
No, I could not give a single shit about that. But it does have a nice looking screen. Like, I think you'd agree that the screen is like it's surprisingly nice.
Yeah. It seems so much more vibrant, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I've noticed especially like on retro games, actually, they really pop. It gives you almost it's not exactly CRT, but it is sort of approaching that area. The fact that it's cart-based, I don't think is surprising at all. If they're going to do the hybrid design again, discs on a handheld, it's just not great. Sony attempted it, and it worked fine enough, but it feels unreliable.
Yeah, I've had a PSP. Yeah. It wasn't reliable. It couldn't reliably play games.
And you have to worry about it like scratching the the disc or whatever.
Yeah, I know it would pause my game and it would feel like the disc ejected or something by itself.
Yeah.
I was having that problem with it, so I had to tape something down inside the.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, so I'm glad that they're sticking with cartridges. I think that makes a lot of sense. The backwards compatibility thing, let's talk about that, because that's in my opinion, that's a huge deal. So, according to VGC, they've heard things from both sides that no, it's not going to have it. Yes, it's going to have it. A YouTuber named Modern Vintage Gamer put out a video that was actually pretty interesting about this topic. He called it something like Nintendo's backwards compatibility problem or something along those lines. Anyway, apparently, the hardware that Switch is rumored to move to does not support backwards compatibility on it. So, what that would mean is if we are going to see these games, if we are going to see backwards compatibility come to Switch, it's going to have two main solutions. A, patches are released for all games on Switch, which that introduces a couple problems. And then two, we have a DS and 3DS, and I guess Wii U also style situation where the old hardware gets brought on entirely with it, where there was basically a whole Game Boy Advance or whatever built into the original DS. There was a whole Wii built into the Wii U.
Yeah.
The Wii was already a GameCube, so that hardware was already on, that kind of thing. The patches idea is... It definitely seems possible for first-party games. I could see Nintendo reasonably releasing compatibility patches for all their first-party library on Switch. But you're going to be missing out on a ton of great games then for third parties, or third parties are going to have to put development resources into bringing it over. That would not set with me quite right, because I'd like to bring my entire collection over if possible.
They were talking about, like you said earlier, about patch for Switch 2 for Scarlet and Violet.
Right, yeah. And I guess if we're going off that, and that is one of the best rumors that we have, then I guess maybe we just assume. The question there has always been for me, when I first heard that rumor, what I thought was, it's a performance patch. So if you play this on Switch 2, you're laughing. But no, it needs... I mean, those games are broken, basically. If you play it on Switch 2, it gets a performance boost, and the game looks like a real video game. And I was... they've done that on Xbox and, Sony consoles, where the old games get a performance boost when played on the new hardware. And that's what I would hope for these patches, rather than you need a patch in order to run the game. But, now that you put it like that, maybe that really is why they're doing a patch for it. Interesting.
Or they'll just make you buy the game again.
I mean, Pokemon Company would have no qualms about doing that, but I think Nintendo would, there's so much goodwill that I feel like they built up with the Switch, which they could just destroy by making them not compatible with the Switch 2.
Yeah.
And I think that, there's other concerns too that maybe we'll get into later. Let's talk about some of the rest of the rumors that have just popped up before we get into the nitty gritty. Apparently, the developer portal for Nintendo now lists the NX2, which this is kind of a throwback. Just talking about NX again. NX. I assume they're just going to call it the Switch 2. I guess lame. That would be kind of lame, but there's so many issues. You don't want another Wii U situation. The
Switch U?
Yeah, don't do that again, where no one knew what it was. Another detail is that it'll be LCD, but it'll be an 8-inch screen, which I think is slightly bigger than the original Switch screen. People are speculating that it'll be revealed as early as this month. I think at Gamescom. I think that is not going to happen. We're not going to hear about this probably until next year.
Unless a Pokemon Company accidentally leaks it in one of their... Pokemon Presents.
That's interesting.
Video.
Yeah, that is. What is that? 2 days from now, there's going to be a Pokemon Presents. I don't think we'll hear anything about it there either. No. But that'd be kind of funny. The other place might be the Tokyo Game Show. I don't think so. I think Nintendo's going to reveal this on their own terms in their own specialized presentation. That's going to be
September. Yeah,
sometime in September or even into next year, which is kind of where I'm putting my bets. September would make sense because obviously. They do directs in September a lot. That's all up in the air. I do think people are a little delusional if they think it's going to get announced this month. Maybe maybe certain new developer partners will be, hey, now we're giving you a development kit. But
do you think it'll leak? Do you think a developer will leak it?
Well, it's hard to say. We knew like basically what the Switch was going to be long before we actually saw one, and I don't think we ever saw one pre that reveal. But we saw like mock-ups of like, okay, there are detachable controllers on the side, and
there's the water thing where you tilt it and it feels like
the what they call that, HD Rumble.
Yeah.
The HD Rumble, yeah. So we knew like a fair amount about it before we actually saw it, but we never did see that. So I'm up in the air. I think maybe we'll get some like some of those illustrations like we did before of like broadly what it looks like. I'm guessing it'll just look like another Switch.
Yeah.
They obviously want to make it look different enough that it's not going to confuse consumers.
What if they call it New Nintendo Switch?
That would be a terrible idea, because this isn't like a Pro model from the sounds of it.
Switch 3D.
No,
and then
it's not a good pun there. You really need a good pun if you're going to go that route. 3DS was genius, because it's a DS that's also 3D.
What? Oh, wait, I've got another one. A two-way Switch.
Well, that's like a electrician joke.
Yeah.
But
a dimmer switch?
That sounds like the Switch is now worse than the previous model.
I mean, we did have a Switch Lite.
Yeah.
Like a EC.
Like a light Switch?
Yeah.
This is bad. This is real bad. I mean, we could spend all day coming up with Switch puns. There's the classic one. It was the one that everyone was thinking about when it first got revealed, way back in the day, the Switchblade. You know, there were so many versions like the Joy-Con with a knife coming out of it. There's like a million versions of that. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what they call it. I want to talk about how necessary we think a Switch 2 is. And I want, on a scale of 1 to 10 right now.
Ooh. I'm gonna say a 4.
Wow.
I don't think it's really necessary. Maybe like a enhanced Switch with like upgraded graphics and everything, but does it need to do anything differently? Like, Nintendo's philosophy usually is like, we're going to make something when it has to like upgrade, you know,
something radically different.
Like GameCube to Wii, we added motion controls. Wii to Wii U, we added a tablet. From Wii U to Switch, it's now you can take it wherever you want to go.
Right.
So they make it different. With their handhelds, I guess it's a little bit different. It's more like we're just upgrading the graphics or whatever, you know.
Very iterative, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if the Switch needs it as well.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at more like a 7 because I'm beginning to get pissed off about these hardware issues.
Yeah.
Like, I had to get my Switch sent in because it started overheating, which is becoming more and more of a problem with like Generation 1 Switches, like those launch Switches. I saw a Smash Brothers tournament actually where they were playing doubles and it overheated and went out mid game. So that's completely unacceptable. I'm tired of the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons are one of Nintendo's biggest fails in history as far as like their hardware goes.
Because of the drift.
So unreliable. And I know that some people claim this has not happened to them, but I don't think I have a pair that still doesn't exhibit some degree of drift.
Yeah.
And that to me is just ridiculous. So I would like to see new Joy-Cons. I definitely don't want to see the small Joy-Con and the bigger Joy-Con like case or whatever that thing was.
Inside each other.
And then also, like, the limitations with, I mentioned with Pikmin 4. I don't think you saw those. This might again be a launch Switch issue, but Pikmin 4, the Tears of the Kingdom, that's one where we know that on OLED models it actually plays nicer.
Yeah.
And then Bowser's Fury as well, which was the game that finally drove my Switch to overheat and almost die. I'd like to see those kind of games, but being able to be played at higher resolution, at 60 FPS. Those are the kind of things I really care about at this point. I can't deal with Bowser Fury, 20 frames per second, Tears of the Kingdom, variable frame rate, Pikmin 4's issues, you know. It's beginning to get to me a little bit. So I really want to see a new piece of hardware. Assuming that we have backwards compatibility. That is maybe the biggest feature that I care about. I guess, you know, you mentioned like how Nintendo always wants to upgrade the feature set. Let's talk about that real quick. Like what features we want to see. My number one is backwards compatibility.
Yeah. That has to be my number one too. It adds so much to your library right away. Mm-hmm. Like I had the Switch. I get to move all my games over. I get to move my save data over.
Yep.
Life is good.
That first week of Switch, like we were scraping the bottom of the barrel after we'd had
Like
our fill
Breath
of
of
the Wild. It's like,
There's
I guess
still something
Bomberman
in
R. I guess we're playing Bomberman R snipper clips.
1-2 Switch.
1-2 Switch.
Or, I guess nobody was really playing that one.
No, I only ever played that once at a friend's house, and it was miserable. but yeah, like this time, okay, I've got all these other games now that I've kind of gotten through that early launch.
So they can they have more time, basically.
Yeah, to really get things going.
Yeah, because it was like forever before Mario Odyssey, which was like their next big thing.
Yeah, we even had to wait a couple months for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It wasn't there right away. But
eventually we got some more games, and they just kind of seemed like, okay, we're shoveling the ones from Wii U over now.
Yeah.
Like, they realized, oh no, we should have had these already ready by the time.
That's not going to fly on Switch 2. No. I'm not paying again for Tropical Freeze or whatever. As much as I'd like to have, games like that on the new Switch, you can't do it to me again. You got to let me bring it over. Other features though, like it'd be nice if the screen was maybe like a 1080p screen.
Yeah.
I'm getting old man eyes, Tom. It's getting harder. It's getting harder to see things. I want a little bit higher resolutions both on the screen and on the TV. There's rumors that it'll be able to output. It won't render really like 4K, but be able to output at 4K. That would be nice. And then, a better front end. They never updated the Switch's front end. It still looks super basic. The only thing they were added, right, was like the dark mode?
I think so.
That might have been there at the start. I can't even remember anymore.
I know they add like the little profile pictures every once in a while. I think they added Tears of the Kingdom ones and stuff.
I think technically the Switch has folders now, but it's not straightforward how the folders work. So get that to be a little bit better. I remember that was the first thing I thought made it fake when you showed me that fake Switch too. It's like the UI looked great. Yeah. That's not the Switch brand. I
think about the games they're releasing soonish, and I'm like, if those are not on Switch 2, I don't know why you're releasing them now, basically. Like Mario Wonder and the Princess Peach game that hasn't got a title for Metroid Prime 4, which I think was promised on the Switch, at least.
I think they're even saying that it's still coming to Switch.
Yeah. And then we've got, what else? Mario RPG.
Mario RPG, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what other thing they could do is they could have a branching path. They have the Nintendo Switch path, and then this supposed sequel path.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be miserable.
They're
maintaining both at the same time.
And then this is more of a home console thing. But
that would be miserable.
Yeah.
Please don't do that, Nintendo. Let's talk about this. What games do we want to see at launch? Because we're just assuming that our entire libraries are going to be able to be brought over. But what new games do we want to see there? I mean, I kind of made fun of Snipper Clips a second ago, but I'd like to see a game that's kind of simple like that at launch. That's kind of fun. Everyone can kind of, mess around with whatever new features the Switch 2 might have.
Maybe a new Luigi's Mansion game.
Just a straight up new one.
Yeah.
I would even be down
Yoshi,
for
an actually good Yoshi game, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe it's time for a 3D Yoshi. I don't know how Kirby had its first real 3D game recently, and it was great. Odyssey 2, Odyssey Successor would be a huge one. They usually do a Mario in the first year.
But we have Mario Wonder coming up, so I'm like...
Yeah, well, that's true too. But 3D Mario is important.
Yeah. I guess they could do F-Zero. Or a Punch-Out game.
Yeah. I mean, as far as things that they haven't touched in a while.
I don't feel like they've announced much DLC for Splatoon 3, have they?
No, they've announced it. I don't think we've seen anything of it, is the thing. Though it appears to kind of be the same as last game. I guess we could see Splatoon 4.
Yeah.
They recently brought on the servers again for Splatoon 1, which is pretty interesting, and I wonder what's going on there.
And Mario Kart 8.
That's the Wii U version.
Yes.
Obviously, the Switch one's still around. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. For me, the big thing would be a 3D Mario. And then I can wait a while on Mario Kart 9. I don't even know if Mario Kart 9 is a realistic ask.
Because they've added just so much stuff to 8
Yeah.
now.
I wonder if they're just going to release 8 forever. It's this like the Smash Brothers conundrum, right? Like, how do you follow up the...
Ultimate.
Yeah, the ultimate version or whatever.
Well, you have to make serious cuts and rebuild, basically.
Which almost no one wants that.
A complete and utter rebuild with completely different things, you know.
Let's talk about this. How much do we think it's going to cost? Because, I mean, for a while, clearly the Switch is going to still be on the market with this thing. And we haven't seen those, like, deep price cuts at all, really, for the Switch yet. And I don't know if maybe we can expect those to come along. For me, I'm thinking, like, $400 is reasonable to assume at the moment.
Yeah, I think it'll be $450, $500.
Yeah. You see, that gets into a really miserable pricing situation for a lot of people. And
like the original Switch and the Switch Lite, like, that's a pretty good price for it.
Yeah. Well, are there any other final thoughts that you have, Tom, about the Switch 2?
I don't think so, no.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing more about this. I'm sure that, in the coming weeks, we're just going to get more and more details leaking out. So eventually we'll talk more about this in the future, but let's move on to the listener question. And this one actually comes from Jordan. Jordan submitted this listener question. He just said that he wanted us to talk generally about tie-in video games, licensed games, games based on a property.
And
so
I was like Shrek the movie video game?
Kind of, yeah. I didn't know what to say about it generally, but I did want to just talk about one of my favorites, which is Lego Star Wars. One of my favorite childhood games. I think one of the best uses of a license. It's really clever the way it integrates both Lego and the Star Wars elements together. It retells the entire movie franchise, basically.
In a hilarious fashion.
In a hilarious way. So, yeah, I don't know. That one is like a really excellent example of it. I never followed the Lego series much after.
Yeah. They had Indiana Jones, Batman.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, I think.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings had one. There's been so many.
Yeah.
I kind of fell off after they released the first 2 Lego Star Wars together on Wii. Yeah. I think that was the last one I really dug into. I played Indiana Jones. I thought it was missing something. I don't know why Indiana Jones stuff compared to Star Wars stuff just never seems to.
Star Wars stuff has magic.
That's true.
And Indiana Jones has his whip. And
he can punch.
And he can punch and shoot people.
Then I tried Harry Potter Lego, but I remember that one just being really I'm so tired of this at this point.
Because they had released several Lego games.
So many, yeah.
And I don't think we've even played all of the Star Wars ones. I think they made a Clone Wars one, or
Yep, they did. They made one based on the new movies as well, which, I mean,
who's gonna play those?
Yeah, really. What about you, Tom? What's your favorite licensed tie-in game?
Oh, let me think here. Green Eggs and Ham.
That is a classic. That's probably one that we've played more than any other one. That requires too much explanation for the Green Eggs and Ham thing, but maybe someday we'll have you back and we'll just talk about Green Eggs and Ham. All right, I think that's about all we have for this episode, Tom. Thanks for joining me. It was really fun to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Take care, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.